Welcome to Zoe Stories. One choice that destroyed my old life. I never imagined that a single choice could unravel everything I had built, changing my life in ways I could never reverse. My name is Erin, and until recently, I was living what most people would call a normal life. I had a steady job in marketing, a small apartment in the city, and Yememe, the woman I thought I would spend my future with. But beneath the surface, I had a secret. One I had buried so deeply that even I had convinced myself it was harmless. I loved to cross-dress. It wasn't just curiosity or play. It was an expression of a part of me I hadn't fully understood. When no one was watching, I would spend hours experimenting with outfits, makeup, and hairstyles, transforming into someone entirely different, yet fully myself. At first, it was thrilling. A private escape from the pressures of a world that demanded I be one way, act one way, be one man. In those moments, wearing a delicate dress or slipping into heels, I felt a freedom I couldn't find anywhere else. But I was careful. Obsessed with secrecy, I hid every item, every photo, every memory of these private sessions. Emma had no idea. She was wonderful, loving, and unsuspecting. Our relationship had always been open and playful, but the thought of her knowing about this side of me terrified me. Not because I thought she would leave me, but because revealing this secret meant exposing a part of myself I had always considered too fragile, too vulnerable. The apartment we shared was small but cozy. Sunlight spilled through large windows into the living room, painting everything in golden warmth. On the surface, it was perfect. To anyone walking by, it seemed ordinary, a sanctuary from the chaos of life. But inside, behind the carefully arranged furniture and neatly stacked books, I had a hidden corner where my secret life thrived, a closet filled with delicate fabrics, wigs, and shoes I would never dare wear outside. This was my world, my refuge, and my temptation all at once. Emma and I had been together for over 2 years. She was vibrant, confident, and endlessly curious. Her laughter could fill a room, and her touch always grounded me, even when my mind was spinning in chaos. But she had her ways of noticing things I thought I hid perfectly, little habits, small gestures, and a level of intuition that always made me feel simultaneously protected and exposed. It was a Thursday evening when everything changed. I had finished work, exhausted from another day of deadlines and presentations. Emma was out visiting her family, and I had the apartment to myself. The familiar excitement stirred in me, the anticipation of slipping into my hidden world, of becoming someone entirely different, if only for a few hours. I opened the closet door and ran my fingers over the fabrics, lingering on a deep burgundy dress that had always been my favorite. The texture was soft, comforting, almost intoxicating. I lifted it carefully, holding it against my chest, imagining how it would feel against my skin. The thought alone sent a shiver down my spine. The heels waited neatly beside the closet, sleek and intimidating. I had learned to walk in them with care, to make each step deliberate, graceful, controlled. The wig was next, dark and silky, waiting to frame my face perfectly, transforming my appearance in ways that thrilled and terrified me simultaneously. As I dressed, I felt a rush of emotion, a mix of excitement, fear, and an almost painful longing. I looked in the mirror, watching as the man I was melted away beneath layers of fabric, makeup, and persona. When I finally finished, I hardly recognized myself. The reflection staring back was beautiful, delicate, and fragile, yet undeniably me. It was in that moment that the phone rang, shattering the delicate cocoon I had created. My heart jumped. It was Yememe. I froze, my fingers trembling as I held the receiver. "Hey, Emma," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, though it quivered just slightly. "Hey, I'm running late," she said, her voice cheerful, but with an edge of curiosity. "I might be home sooner than I thought. Is that okay?" My chest tightened. Suddenly, the thrill I had felt moments ago transformed into a cold knot of panic. The hours I had set aside for myself, the transformation, the escape, the private indulgence, were suddenly threatened. I had choices to make, and I knew, deep down, that one choice tonight would change everything. I forced a calm laugh. "Yeah, no problem," I said, my mind racing. "Take your time, drive safely." As soon as the call ended, I realized I had a decision to make. Should I rush to undo my transformation, hide everything, and pretend the night had been ordinary? Or should I embrace it, risk exposure, and allow this part of myself to exist, even if only for a brief moment? In that moment, a strange clarity hit me. This was more than a whim, more than a secret indulgence. It was a test, a choice between continuing the life I had known or stepping into a world I had always feared, a world that could destroy everything if I misstepped. I took a deep breath, feeling the fabric of the dress against my skin, the heels pinching gently, the wig framing my face. My reflection smiled back at me, almost daring me to take the step. And, without fully realizing the consequences, I made my choice. The choice that would unravel my old life. The apartment felt smaller somehow, the walls pressing in as I took slow, deliberate steps across the living room. The burgundy dress hugged my body in all the right ways, soft fabric brushing against my skin with each movement. The heels made my calves ache slightly, but I relished the sensation, the awkward balance between power and fragility, control and vulnerability. I moved to the mirror, my reflection catching me mid-step. The person staring back was at once familiar and completely foreign. The dark wig framed my face, soft curls falling to my shoulders. Makeup highlighted my cheekbones, the eyes subtly enlarged with liner and shadow. The lips, tinted a soft rose, looked impossibly delicate. I took a deep breath, feeling my chest rise and fall, the sensation of the outfit making every nerve feel alive, every emotion amplified. This wasn't just play anymore. Tonight, it felt like an unveiling, a test. Emma could come home at any moment, and every second I spent in this form increased the risk. The thrill of it mingled with fear, a cocktail that made my heart pound in my chest. I pressed my hands to the mirror, tracing the contours of my face, my fingers brushing the wig, the blush, the tiny imperfections that made me human. I had always loved the transformation process. Choosing the outfit, applying makeup with precision, walking in heels. Each step was a ritual that let me shed the persona I had carried through the daylight hours. At work, I was Erin, confident, professional, composed. Here, in this sanctuary of fabric and reflection, I became someone else. Someone freer, softer, more daring. But tonight, freedom came with consequences. Emma's early return loomed over me, a silent warning. Every creak of the floorboards, every passing sound outside the apartment made me freeze, heart-skipping beats. I imagined her walking in at any moment, and a cold wave of panic washed over me. What if she walked in while I was like this? What if she saw more than she could accept? I forced myself to focus. I picked up a small perfume bottle, spritzing the scent delicately across my neck and wrists. The fragrance was intoxicating, floral and slightly sweet, and it grounded me in the persona I had become. I inhaled deeply, letting the scent wrap around me like armor, masking both my anxiety and my secret. Then, a sudden sound made me jump, the soft click of the front door. My breath caught in my throat. Could it be Yemame? My hands trembled as I clutched the edge of the dresser, the heels pinching my feet painfully as I adjusted my balance. But it wasn't her. Just the neighbor returning from the hallway, footsteps muffled but close enough to make me tense. The danger was real but indirect, a reminder that the outside world was always just beyond the thin walls, waiting to discover what I had worked so hard to conceal. I sank into a chair, crossing my legs carefully in the heels, trying to steady my racing heart. The dress swished softly against my thighs, the silky fabric almost hypnotic in its motion. I allowed myself a small smile in the mirror, feeling a rush of pride and excitement. This was me. This was freedom. This was a side of myself I had hidden for too long. But the fear never left. It lingered in the pit of my stomach, in the tension of my shoulders, in the sharp awareness of every sound. Every step I took in the heels reminded me that this was precarious. Every glance in the mirror reminded me that exposure could come in an instant. Every heartbeat carried the weight of potential discovery. I decided to explore further. Moving carefully, I walked to the bedroom mirror, adjusting the wig and checking the alignment of my makeup. The reflection was flawless, yet terrifyingly vulnerable. I could see the duality. The man I was hidden beneath layers of fabric and color, and the person I was daring to be. The thrill of the transformation was inseparable from the fear of being caught. I spent the next hour perfecting every detail. The skirt was smooth, the heels checked for balance, the wig adjusted so that no stray hairs gave away my identity. I practiced walking, pivoting, turning, each motion measured, graceful, controlled. My body felt foreign yet familiar, my mind sharp with adrenaline. And then the phone buzzed again. A message from EMA. Might be home in 20, see you soon. Panic and exhilaration collided. 20 minutes. Not enough time to revert completely, not enough to prepare for confrontation, yet enough to tempt me to stay in this persona. My fingers brushed the edges of the dress, the silky fabric teasing my skin. The heels pinched. The wig framed my face perfectly. I knew I had a choice. Undo everything and hide, or embrace the moment, risk exposure, and allow this side of me to exist in the open, even if just for a fleeting instant. The reflection in the mirror seemed to urge me forward, daring me to step further into the unknown. I took a deep breath, straightened my back, and stepped out into the living room again, moving with cautious grace. Every sound, the hum of the refrigerator, the distant footsteps from the hallway, the soft click of my heels on the floor, was magnified, each a drumbeat of suspense. I felt like an actor on stage, performing a role that could destroy my life if performed incorrectly. And then I noticed it. A small slip, a loose thread near the hem of the dress, caught on the corner of the chair. My stomach twisted. If Yemme walked in now, she would see every imperfection, every clue that this was more than a casual indulgence. My fingers moved instinctively, smoothing the fabric, tucking the thread, holding my breath with every motion. Time seemed to slow. 20 minutes stretched into an eternity. My reflection watched me, patient, daring, alive. I realized in that moment that nothing would ever be the same. This was more than cross-dressing. This was revelation, exposure, transformation. My old life, carefully constructed, was already beginning to unravel. The thrill surged again, irresistible, as the first sound of the elevator announced Emma's imminent arrival. My pulse spiked. My reflection smiled mockingly, daring me to take the final step. And deep in my chest, I knew, whatever happened next, one choice tonight would destroy my old life forever. The sound of the elevator dinging echoed faintly through the apartment building, and my heart seized in my chest. Emma would be here any moment, and every step I had taken tonight, every delicate adjustment to my outfit, every careful brush of makeup, now felt like a gamble. My heels clicked softly against the floor as I paced, trying to find some rhythm that would calm the storm inside me. The dress swayed with each step, soft burgundy fabric whispering against my skin. I glanced at the mirror and froze. My reflection stared back, wide-eyed and flawless, yet every inch of me screamed vulnerability. My hands rested lightly on the dresser as I ran my fingers over the wig, smoothing a stray curl that threatened to reveal the secret I had guarded so fiercely. I remembered the first time I had tried to cross-dress. I was younger, unsure, filled with fear and excitement in equal measure. Back then, it had been a private thrill, a fantasy that existed only in hidden corners. Now, the stakes were infinitely higher. I had the power to embrace this version of myself, but the cost of exposure loomed like a shadow over every step, every breath. A soft knock at the door made me jump. My pulse spiked, my body tensing as if every nerve had been wired to detect danger. Emma's voice followed almost immediately. "Aaron, are you here?" I swallowed hard, forcing my hands to steady. "Yeah, in here," I called softly, my voice quivering despite my best efforts. The doorknob turned slowly, and my mind raced through scenarios. What would she say? How would she react? Would she laugh, or worse, be angry? My heart pounded so loudly, I was sure she could hear it. I took a deep breath, letting the adrenaline sharpen my awareness. Every sound, every movement felt amplified, each a potential threat to my carefully maintained secret. Emma stepped inside, her eyes scanning the room, curious yet cautious. "You look different," she said, her voice soft, tinged with amusement and surprise. I froze. Different. The single word held endless possibilities. Acceptance? Confusion? Judgment? I felt the tightness of the dress, the pressure of the heels, the weight of the wig. Every element of my transformation now seemed exposed under her gaze. Just trying something new," I murmured, brushing a curl back behind my ear, trying to sound casual even as my chest tightened with anxiety. She stepped closer, eyes lingering on my reflection in the mirror. "Erin, is this really you?" The question hung in the air, heavy with curiosity and tension. I nodded, my hands trembling slightly. "Yes, it's me," I whispered. "I wanted to see this side of me, just for a little while." Her smile was small, uncertain, but genuine. "It suits you," she said, but her eyes searched mine, looking for honesty, looking for reassurance. The room felt suddenly smaller, the walls pressing in as the weight of revelation settled over us. Every detail, the swish of the dress, the soft tapping of heels, the way the wig framed my face, was a symbol of vulnerability, of trust, and of the risk I had taken. I moved toward the sofa, careful with every step. My reflection followed, flawless yet fragile. Emma sat beside me, close enough to sense the tension in my body. She reached for my hand, her touch grounding me even as the fear of exposure surged. "I don't fully understand," she admitted softly, her thumb brushing over my knuckles. "But I want to. I want to know why this is important to you." I swallowed hard, emotions threatening to spill over. It's more than just clothes or makeup," I explained, voice trembling. "It's a part of me I've kept hidden because I was afraid of what people might think, afraid of losing everything." She nodded slowly, her gaze never leaving mine. "And you think I might leave?" "No," I said quickly, shaking my head. I can't risk losing you. That's why I've hidden it for so long." Her fingers tightened around mine, and for a moment, the fear receded, replaced by something warmer. Acceptance, curiosity, a connection deeper than I had anticipated. But just as quickly, reality slammed back in. The sound of a phone vibrating on the coffee table jolted me, a reminder that the outside world was always waiting, that exposure could come at any moment. I glanced at the screen. An unknown number. My chest tightened. Who could it be at this hour? The thought of anyone discovering my secret filled me with dread. I debated ignoring it, letting it go to voicemail, but curiosity, and perhaps a streak of reckless courage, made me swipe to answer. "Hello." My voice was cautious, controlled, but tense. A low, unfamiliar voice responded. "Erin, I know what you're doing." My blood ran cold. The words were simple, yet they carried the weight of threat. "Who is this?" I demanded, panic creeping into my tone. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, heart hammering. Emma's eyes widened, and I felt the sweat prickling at the back of my neck. This was the first direct challenge to my carefully controlled secret. Someone knew. Someone was watching, waiting, threatening the fragile balance I had maintained. I sank back into the sofa, my reflection in the mirror catching my eye. The duality of my existence, the man I was and the persona I had created, suddenly felt exposed, vulnerable, like a tightrope stretched over an abyss. Every detail, the heels, the dress, the makeup, was a target. And now, the stakes had escalated beyond anything I had anticipated. Emma leaned closer, her voice soft but firm. "Erin, what's going on?" I took a deep breath, trying to steady the whirlwind of fear, excitement, and vulnerability. Someone knows about this side of me," I admitted. "I don't know who, but they're watching." Her hand squeezed mine, grounding me. "Then we handle it together," she said. "No matter what happens, we face it together." I nodded, gratitude and fear mingling in equal measure. The moment was both terrifying and exhilarating. The thrill of my secret existence, the danger of exposure, and the closeness with Emma created a tension I had never experienced before. And then, a knock at the door froze me in place. Not a casual knock. This one was deliberate, insistent, demanding attention. My reflection in the mirror seemed to mock me, daring me to face whatever waited beyond the door. Emma looked at me, concern flashing across her face. "Aaron, should I?" Before I could respond, the door handle began to turn. My heart stopped. Everything I had known, everything I had hidden, teetered on the edge of revelation. One wrong move, one glance, one slip, and my old life could shatter completely. And yet, even as fear surged, a part of me thrilled at the possibility. Tonight I was no longer just hiding. Tonight, I was stepping fully into the life I had always dreamed of, no matter the consequences. The door creaked open. The door creaked fully open, and my heart lurched into my throat. Standing there was not Emma, but someone else. My mind raced, trying to comprehend the presence of an uninvited guest in the apartment, the shadows of panic spreading like wildfire through my chest. The figure in the doorway was cloaked in the dim hallway light, silhouette vague but unmistakably human. My reflection in the mirror flinched along with me, a silent reminder that the carefully constructed persona I had nurtured was on the verge of collapse. I wanted to retreat, to hide, but my heels pinned me to the spot, the tight grip of the dress making sudden movement perilous. Who are you?" My voice trembled, betraying the calm I was desperately trying to maintain. The visitor stepped forward, the soft click of shoes on the floor punctuating every second like a countdown. "Aaron," the voice said, low and deliberate. "We need to talk." Panic collided with curiosity. Who knew? Who had found me? The phone call earlier had been a threat, but this was real, immediate, inescapable. Every instinct screamed to flee, to revert back into the safety of my Aaron self, but part of me, the part that had always craved the thrill of exposure, the secret thrill of transformation, frozen in both fear and defiance. Emma's hand on mine was the only thing grounding me, though her grip trembled slightly, betraying her own unease. "Aaron, what's happening?" she whispered. "I don't know," I admitted, voice tight. "Someone they know." The stranger stepped closer, finally emerging into the light. It was a man I recognized from the building, a neighbor who had always been a bit too inquisitive, too observant. And now his eyes were fixed on me, taking in the full picture. The dress, the heels, the wig, the makeup. My carefully curated secret, laid bare in an instant. I felt my face flush, a heat spreading across my cheeks. My fingers fumbled with the edge of the dress, trying to smooth the fabric, to reclaim some sense of control. But it was gone, shattered by a single, unanticipated intrusion. "You're," the man began, clearly struggling to find words. His gaze flicked between me and the mirror, between my delicate, transformed self and the man he must have always assumed I was. I didn't expect this. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my trembling hands. It's not what it looks like," I stammered. Please don't make this worse." The tension was palpable, thick in the air, heavy on my chest. Emma tightened her grip on my hand, leaning in close. "Aaron, breathe. Just breathe," she whispered, grounding me in the storm of exposure and fear. But the stranger didn't move, didn't speak further. His eyes were wide, curiosity mingled with something harder to read. Judgment? Fascination? I couldn't tell, and the uncertainty gnawed at me worse than any insult could. Then, as if sensing the precarious balance, he finally spoke. "I'm not going to tell anyone," he said slowly, deliberately. "But why are you doing this?" The question struck me like a lightning bolt. Why? I had rehearsed explanations, imagined confrontations 1,000 times, but now, Confronted with real exposure, words eluded me. I don't know, I admitted finally. It's a part of me I've always hidden. I can't explain it fully. I just need it. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded slightly, as though some internal debate had concluded. All right, he said finally. I won't tell. But be careful. People can be cruel if they know. You know that, right? I nodded, heart still racing, grateful yet aware that this encounter had escalated everything. The secret was safe for now, but the stakes had grown exponentially. The balance I had maintained for so long had been cracked, and I was acutely aware that exposure could happen at any second. Then came the real shock, the second obstacle. My phone buzzed again, the screen lighting up with a text from Yememe. Aaron, I think I hear someone else outside. Are you sure everything's okay? My stomach twisted. Another potential threat. My reflection in the mirror, once a source of thrill and confidence, now reflected raw vulnerability. I was trapped between thrill and fear, between concealment and exposure, between the desire to be myself and the imperative to protect the fragile stability of my life. I looked at Yememe, panic mirrored in her eyes. I need to handle this, I said, attempting to assert control over the spiraling chaos. Stay back, just stay here. She hesitated, then nodded, understanding without words, trusting me even as the world seemed to tighten around us. I moved toward the door, each step measured, deliberate, heels clicking with a sound that felt deafening in the tense silence. My hands trembled as I gripped the doorknob, preparing to confront whatever challenge awaited. My reflection in the hall mirror caught my eye, and for a fleeting second, I saw two Aarons, one delicate, transformed, feminine, and alive, the other cautious, fearful, desperate to protect the life he had always known. The door swung open, and the corridor revealed nothing. Empty hall, shadows stretching along the walls, the faint hum of distant elevators and passing neighbors. My pulse began to slow, but only slightly. I knew this was temporary. The moment of calm was a fragile illusion, a breath before the storm returned. Returning to the apartment, I felt Emma's gaze on me, steady and reassuring. Everything okay? She asked softly. Yes, I think so, I said, trying to infuse calm into my voice. Yet even as I spoke, the dress clung to me, the wig brushed my shoulders, the heels pinched my feet, a constant reminder that exposure could erupt at any second. We sat together, hands entwined, but the suspense lingered, palpable. Every sound outside, every creak in the floorboards, every distant conversation in the building was a potential threat. My secret, once my sanctuary, had become a tightrope stretched across a chasm, and I was walking it barefoot, in heels, with the world watching. The evening stretched on, each second a test of courage and control. The thrill of transformation mingled with the fear of discovery, and I realized that this was no longer just a secret indulgence. It was a challenge, a confrontation with identity, vulnerability, and trust. Every movement, every breath, every glance at my reflection reminded me that one misstep could shatter everything. And yet, even in the chaos, a part of me thrilled. The adrenaline, the danger, the closeness with the MMA, it was intoxicating, addictive. I had never felt so alive, so exposed, so intensely human. But deep down, I knew the climax had only just begun. The storm outside, the threat of exposure, the precarious balance between who I was and who I longed to be, all of it was converging. The moment of ultimate revelation, of confrontation, was coming, and I had no choice but to face it. The apartment felt smaller than ever. Shadows stretched across the walls as the evening light faded, leaving only the soft glow of the lamps. Every creak of the floorboards sounded like a warning, every distant sound from the hallway a potential threat. My reflection in the mirror stared back at me, flawless and fragile, a perfect mask hiding the chaos inside. I had never felt so exposed. The earlier encounter with the neighbor had shaken me to the core, but the real danger now loomed closer, more immediate. Emma's soft murmur beside me reminded me that I wasn't entirely alone, yet the reality was clear. One wrong move, one slip of the heels, one misaligned curl, and everything could collapse. Then it happened. Another knock at the door, harder this time, insistent, demanding. My heart leapt into my throat, adrenaline surging. "Aaron, open up." A voice, familiar yet unfamiliar in its tone, urgent, questioning, demanding, called from the hallway. Emma stiffened beside me. "Aaron, who is that?" I don't know," I whispered, my fingers trembling as I brushed the wig back from my face, trying to steady myself. The dress clung tighter with each breath, the heels pinching my feet painfully. My mind raced, weighing every possible response, every outcome, but the decision had already been forced upon me. I had to confront this, whatever this was, head-on. I moved toward the door, each step deliberate, heels clicking like a drumbeat of suspense. My reflection followed, a reminder of the duality I carried, man and woman, hidden and exposed, safe and vulnerable. The doorknob turned under my grip, and I forced myself to inhale slowly, to project calm even as panic surged. The door swung open, revealing a figure I never expected, my boss. His eyes widened slightly, a flicker of surprise crossing his face as they took in the full picture. The dress, the wig, the makeup. My carefully guarded secret, laid bare in an instant. "Aaron," he began, voice low, controlled, but laced with tension. I didn't expect this. Panic and exhilaration collided within me. "It's not what it looks like," I stammered, my voice trembling despite my attempt at calm. "Please just don't make this worse." His gaze was sharp, scrutinizing every detail. "You're cross-dressing?" I nodded, swallowing hard. "Yes. It's part of me. I've hidden it for a long time because I was afraid of what people would think, afraid of losing everything." Emma's hand found mine, squeezing tightly, grounding me in the storm of fear and exposure. Her eyes were wide but calm, full of unspoken support. My boss studied me for a long moment, then spoke again. This changes nothing. But you need to be careful. People aren't always kind to things they don't understand." Relief and terror washed over me simultaneously. The immediate danger was neutralized, yet the stakes had escalated. My secret was no longer just mine. It had been seen, acknowledged, and its existence was now a tangible reality, a fragile truth balanced on a knife's edge. But the tension wasn't over. A sudden sound, a crash from the kitchen, made both Emma and me jump. My heart raced. Someone had knocked over a glass, or perhaps something more deliberate. I moved cautiously, every step measured, aware that my reflection in the mirror could betray me at any moment. And then I saw it, the wig, slightly loose, threatening to slip at the slightest movement. My pulse spiked. If it fell, my secret, the persona I had nurtured so carefully, would be exposed completely. The dress rode slightly higher on one side, the heels pinched painfully, my hands shaking as I attempted to adjust everything perfectly. Emma leaned closer, whispering, "Aaron, you can do this. Just stay calm." I nodded, feeling the tension tighten in my chest. The apartment seemed to shrink further, every shadow a potential threat, every sound a warning. The thrill of transformation was inseparable from the fear of exposure, and I realized that this was no longer a simple indulgence. This was a confrontation with identity, vulnerability, and trust. Then came the final challenge. The phone buzzed again, and this time, the screen displayed a message from the unknown number from earlier. "I know what you're doing, and I'm coming over." My chest tightened. Panic surged. Emma's eyes widened, and I felt the sweat prickling at the back of my neck. The person was coming. My secret, my transformed self, was at risk of being exposed completely, and there was no way to hide. I looked at my reflection, seeing the duality more clearly than ever. The man I had always been, hidden beneath layers of fabric and makeup, and the woman I had become, vulnerable and alive, standing on the precipice of revelation. My hands shook as I adjusted the wig, smoothed the dress, and tried to calm the pounding of my heart. The doorbell rang, urgent and insistent. My reflections seemed to mock me, daring me to face the ultimate challenge. Emma squeezed my hand, grounding me in the storm. "Aaron, whatever happens, we face it together," she whispered. I swallowed hard, nodding. This was the moment. One choice would define everything. One decision would destroy my old life, or cement the existence of the person I had become. I opened the door and froze. The door swung open, and a figure stood there, silhouetted, unreadable, every detail obscured by the dim hallway light. My breath caught in my throat, the heels pinching, the dress tight, the wig slightly askew. I was frozen, a statue of fear and anticipation, every nerve alight. The figure stepped closer. Emma's hand tightened around mine, grounding me, whispering words of reassurance I barely heard over the roar of my own heartbeat. You know," the stranger said softly, voice unfamiliar yet commanding. "About all of this." I swallowed, words failing me. The adrenaline coursing through my veins made my fingers tremble. Before I could finish, the hallway light flickered, casting long, shifting shadows. My reflection in the mirror behind me seemed to move independently, a haunting echo of the duality I carried, the man I had been and the persona I had become. The tightrope I had been walking for so long quivered dangerously beneath me. "Who are you?" I managed to choke out, but the question sounded hollow even to my own ears. The figure took a slow step forward, and I realized something that made my chest seize. It wasn't just one person. Two shadows loomed now in the doorway, both familiar, both threatening to shatter the fragile equilibrium I had built. My secret, my identity, was no longer mine alone to guard. Emma leaned closer, whispering, "Aaron, stay calm. Whatever happens, we'll face it together." I nodded, but my hands shook as I instinctively adjusted the wig, smoothed the dress, tried to mask the quiver in my voice. My transformed self, the person I had nurtured with care, love, and daring, stood trembling, exposed in every way possible. The strangers stepped closer, voices merging in the tense silence. "We know what you've been hiding," one said, "and we're not leaving until you answer for it." My pulse raced, the room shrinking around me. Every movement, every breath felt amplified, the soft click of my heels like a warning drumbeat. I realized, with a mix of fear and exhilaration, that this was the moment where my old life ended, where my secret would either be destroyed or accepted. Emma's grip on my hand was the only anchor, the only reminder that someone I trusted was still by my side. But the unknown, the exposure, the threat looming just beyond the doorway, was a force I couldn't control. I was vulnerable, alive, and terrified all at once. I looked into the mirror one last time, seeing the person I had become, a delicate, transformed figure, standing poised yet trembling, beautiful yet exposed. And in that reflection, I recognized the truth I had been avoiding. I couldn't go back. One choice had already changed everything, and the consequences were unavoidable. The strangers moved closer, and I realized that every secret, every hidden desire, every fear was about to collide with reality. My breath caught, my heart raced, and then the doorbell rang again, this time louder, insistent, urgent. I froze. Emma's eyes widened in alarm. "Aaron, someone's coming. Now." My mind raced, trapped between panic and thrill. The door was inches away, the secrets I had carried so long trembling on the edge of exposure. The reflection in the mirror seemed to reach for me, urging me forward, daring me to confront what I had hidden for so long. And then, in the silence that followed, a faint whisper echoed from the hallway. "Time to choose who you really are." My chest tightened. My hands shook. Every instinct screamed to hide, yet another part of me, a bold, fearless part, urged me to step fully into the life I had begun to embrace. The door slowly creaked open, and the screen goes black.